So my name's Daisy and I'm an Advanced Clinical Practitioner in Palliative Care here at St Nicholas Hospice, and my job role spans across the whole clinical directorate. So as part of the senior leadership team, I work as one of the clinical managers, senior nurse in the organisation, and I also work clinically across the ward and community settings here at the hospice. The people I work with and the job that we do, the team that we work with has such a drive and a passion for supporting patients in really vastly complex situations, particularly in the community setting, which is where I started originally, and more recently kind of working on the ward in my advanced role. And the team that we have are driven to be able to support the patient to be in their place of choice, regardless of the complexities that comes with the need to be slightly creative in the support that we provide patients to care for them in wherever they call home. And that really, really brings everybody together and really sort of underpins everything that specialist palliative care has to offer. The complexity of symptom management as well is something that I'm passionate in supporting, making sure that patients get timely access to their medications from the right person to the right drug, and that has its own challenges with it, but again it's having a support of a team who are familiar with the slightly different drug regimes that we may use, or the combination of things that we use, and how we can support patients to be as comfortable and symptom free as possible, as well as being able to have choice and control over the care that they receive. Leading on families administering medications as well, so that family members have the option to be able to support, again, timely access and reducing kind of inequities in care for patients who are being cared for at home with some of the sort of geographical challenges we have in the West. So Radar offers us the ability to be able to be kind of really objective in our incident investigation. So it really helps guide any investigations that we have to do by providing us, kind of key areas to complete. It is a really effective way to be able to provide a snapshot of the investigation process, so being able to see kind of who's accessed it, when they've accessed it, and be able to prompt people in terms of providing learning outcomes, for example, so that you can allocate them to different people, and then you've got like a really clear kind of governance trail of the process that's undergoing. It's very keen at prompting you when you have learning outcomes that are still pending, which is, it is useful because it forms part of our workload, but isn't obviously the whole workload that we provide. So it's useful in terms of governance as well. So, one of the things that we've done recently is reviewed all of our processes, policies, guidelines, etc. So making sure that they are user-friendly, so we've been able to kind of reconfigure how we access them for staff, rather than them having to know whether is it a policy or is it a guideline. We can make sure that they can be steered in one direction to any clinical documents that might inform their practice, whether that's how to respond to a falls, for example, or how to respond to an incident out of hours if there was a particular problem with a piece of equipment or a process that had gone awry. So it also helps when we relate back to any incidents that have occurred again. So we've got one place to access to know that we can correlate a particular incident that might have occurred with a transportation or a collection process error with medications, for example. We know that we have a process in place and governance structure to support that. So again, we can kind of make sure that adherence has occurred throughout the whole process. So other than the incident investigation side and sort of the streamline process, it's really helpful, but the action planning area is really helpful. It's useful to be able to kind of plan out who's the most appropriate person to undertake these aspects, but also to kind of maintain a little oversight that they are being followed up, that these things don't fall off of our radar, for want of a better description, that we're making sure that we can kind of triangulate that the learning outcomes have been shared, particularly if there were different areas that can be disseminated to the sort of wider teams. I know Natasha's been doing some work with the learning from radar aspects and sharing with the team, which has been really, really helpful. And those action plans just kind of really again provide some governance behind how we're sharing our learning, not only sharing the learning, but how we're kind of then reviewing the learning. So that might then lead on to a different audit, whether it's a documentation audit, for example, or a record keeping audit. That helps us sort of, again, triangulate the learning that we've, as leaders, have gained from these incidents that have occurred, so that we can make sure that there's kind of common themes that we are trying to kind of mitigate and things. And again, also just having the policies and everything in one place, so that you can see that there's a live action update if things have changed. Again, these things used to get sort of lost in translation. If it was an old Word document saved on a drive, you had the risk that people could have deleted it by error and things. So again, having that, sort of one safe place to access is really useful, rather than having to point staff to an old folder on a shelf. So that's really helpful. It's a really interesting question. I think one of the things would be, I'm aware that other healthcare systems, so for example, the West Suffolk, use radar now. And as a healthcare system to support patients, we're working, much more aligned. The work that we do aligns across the whole of the ICB with different domains that we're working in. So things like our DIWELL group, for example, is represented by the whole of the West, and feeds into the much larger sort of healthcare systems, again, so that we're not duplicating care. We're making sure patients are getting the correct response, but we're also making sure that healthcare professionals' time is, used in the most effective way. So things like Health Radar as a system, being able to kind of access and correlate data across many healthcare streams, will provide, again, I think, in terms of learning from incidents that occur, would be quite helpful. At the moment, we're being able to report things and then it can be exported to other systems. But again, sharing learning from that, I think, will help, just because of the nature patients are presenting with so many more kind of comorbidities, polypharmacy of medications that they're having, so we tend to be linking with a much wider network of teams in terms of the patient treatment journey that they may be having, the treatments that we can offer, and the different regimes of medications and the added complexities that comes, potential side effects, etc. How we can keep track of that, if there's learning to be shared, having a mutual platform and things like we use System 1 that aligns, and the greater access that we have with now over 80% of our GPs using that platform as a shared record-keeping system. It's still not without its flaws, but it does offer, a much greater safety net in terms of the care that you can then provide in return for the patient, particularly if you've got somebody who is really overwhelmed with, answering these questions repeatedly. Again, having that one go-to place as an access of information is really important. So